All right, welcome back. In case you're just joining us, it's time for our conversation right now. Dr. Aliyu Audu, the Chief Executive at HATFIELD Group, is to my immediate left. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Rotimi Olawole is a public affairs analyst. I don't want to call you that. I don't know why. But welcome, Rotimi,
Thank you very
on
much.
the show.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Now, let's get started. Both of you listened to my intro.
Yeah,
Have you been here?
Yeah.
Okay, so you heard what I said about poverty, even what the World Bank said last week, you know. World Poverty Clock, sometime was in 2017 or so. Yes, 2017 brought out that report. I know I did a week-long series on that World Poverty Clock report that Nigeria will be the headquarters of poverty. I did it for 1 week. I intimated the whole country. But was it last year again? It was as if they were hearing it for the first time. And I still did a week long again to see, okay, these are solutions to get us out of poverty. NBS in its volume 2 report last week, that's talking about labor force statistics report, did say that a lot of states reported the unemployment rates in states. And
Very high.
Very high.
And underemployment.
And underemployment, yes. Let me have your thoughts on that. Let me start with you.
Oh, yeah, correct. Nigerian poverty rate obviously is increasing. It's increasing because we are not doing enough to eradicate poverty. And when we are talking about eradication of poverty, we have to come out with social intervention programs to reach the poor, not exactly the businessmen in cities or the big companies, but we have to be able to reach out to the poor in the rural areas, and that's where the poverty is. That is one. Again, we have unemployment very high in a lot of states, especially oil-producing states, with Akwa Ibom, Rivers, Bayelsa ranking the highest. I suspect these are the states getting the highest in oil revenue, and obviously due to the oil spillage in most of their areas, because what creates majority of Nigerians are employed in agriculture, farming. So if your area or your state is polluted, majority of your land is polluted with oil, then you are left with no choice than to look for another way to, you know, earn a living. So I believe that, you know, the oil-producing states are obviously giving more revenue than the other states, and not enough is being done by their governors in order to intervene and provide employment for the people. All this is adding to Nigerian poverty rate, and as predicted by the World Bank, in the year 2030, we're expected to be about 45%. Our poverty rate is expected to increase to 45%, meaning we are adding about 6 people. About 6 people are getting poor per minute in Nigeria, and that's very bad. Thank you.
Rotimi, come in here. What's your assessment before I'll take him up on something?
Well, I mean, let me agree with some of the things that he has mentioned, and to look at the oil-producing states that are now suffering from high unemployment it's not surprising. As you know, we had a period of boom a couple of years ago where oil prices are high, and then this led to high construction in many of the oil-producing states, and so there were lots of jobs. As a result of the fall in the price of oil, this construction stopped. Investments were not done in areas that would build the skills and capacity of people in the region. Investment in education was not done. Quality education was not done. Investment to train young people to be skilled so that they can create jobs or get jobs on their own was not done. And so when government begins only to carry the weight of employment, then when government suffers any shocks to its revenue, unfortunately, we see the repercussion in the rates of unemployment in those states, and also poverty. We also see a disconnection between the citizens and government. You see, like you mentioned, just at the tail end of your speaking about Bayelsa, where the governing class are just literally taking care of themselves. That's what they are doing, and they are not bothered by these daily barrage of statistics showing that we're heading towards a crisis. If in Akwa Ibom, where almost 1 out of every 3 persons is unemployed, unemployment over 30%, that's staggering. 30%. And so when you have such a scenario, it's an invitation to chaos, and that's why we're seeing increasing security dimensions, threats in pockets across the country. Types. I mean, just this morning, a young man was telling me that he was robbed at the ATM, even here in Abuja at gunpoint, where they just put a gun to him and say, withdraw every money in your account and give it to them. I mean, so you see all of this manifesting in various ways. We need our leaders to sit down, especially at state levels, to look at this data and see what are the solutions to this. And the solutions are known. These solutions are not rocket science. The solutions to these problems are known.
We'll come to the solutions in a bit because, you know, I don't want to say that I'm really I'm disturbed, I'm worried. I've said it times without number, I'm miserable the way things go on in this country. That you see things like this data, like I mentioned, Bayelsa, which you're bringing me back to. Bayelsa, unemployment rate is at 32.6%. Dr. Audu said it could also be as a result of pollution, because you see most of these communities in the oil-producing states, their rivers are polluted, their farmlands are also polluted, so there's little or nothing that the citizens or the indigenes really do. But the question will be, is there no solution out of it? That's one. And number two, can these governors diversify their economies, their state economies, away from oil, and bring up new industries that will employ their people? You understand what I mean? If your rivers aren't working or aren't giving your citizens what's their livelihood, you should also talk about cleaning up your environment. That's one. That will also bring jobs, as it were. You should also think of what other things can we do to get our citizens engaged. Is it that these governors, I don't want to say, are they not thinking? They are thinking, definitely, but is it not in the right direction?
Well, I think it's a problem of misplaced priorities and getting completely detached from the people. Because if you look at it, I was in London last year, and I was nominated with my group to host an investment summit for the president, which we did in the Banquet Hall Villa on the 29th of November last year, along with the diasporan communities. So a lot of people have shown that they want to invest in Nigeria. Look at my state, I'm from Kogi State, is a hub of solid minerals. I mean, we have no problem talking about poverty there, but right now, salaries are unpaid, people are gnashing, civil servants are committing suicide. That is to show you that the governors are completely detached from their people. And when it comes to election, that is where you hear a lot of money is being spent. Now, we're a state of resources. Even look at Saudi Arabia, that is a hub of oil. Saudi Arabia is diversifying into other areas, into tourism. Look at Dubai, look at Qatar. These countries have more oil and gas than Nigeria, but they are diversifying. So why can't we diversify? What are our governors doing? I mean, you don't have to wait for federal allocation to be able to diversify. There are a lot of people that want to invest in our states from abroad. And all we have to do is to create and promote tourism, create and promote the state abroad. How many states are being advertised on CNN or or BBC? You don't see.
But I think you should even go beyond even advertising.
Yeah, I mean,
because most of the states that we're talking about, most of the states have programs on television. Yeah, it's inclusive.
Yes.
And say, oh, we are working, we are working, we are working. I mean, but when the data comes out, it's telling us something else.
We do not want to.
Where's that work?
We don't want lip service. We want them to create proper social intervention programs. There's nothing wrong if they, reach out to the people through MSMEs, loans, and capacity building. And
but some of those states have those initiatives.
But are they really?
So what is not working?
Is it really reaching the people? Are they really training the people? Are they really putting into the people? I mean, I was a banker for 15 years. You hear that the central bank has over 300 billion loans to MSMEs. But when customers call, we deny them. We don't give them the loans because they don't have such collateral. So it is a problem of lip service. Now, in America, it is the other way around. 90% of American economy is on MSMEs, and if, as long as you're a citizen, you qualify, these loans are disbursed to you either through welfare system, social security system, or different ways. Housing, you can get a house by being a citizen and meeting up to criteria. We have council houses that they give. Right now, we have 16 million housing deficiency. What are, you hear, I was reading about over 400 billion being allocated to the Power and Housing Ministry. Now, what are the housing programs available for the common Nigerian selling pure water to go out there and apply to the government and get a house? There is no such program apart from lip service.
Let me bring in Rotimi. What do you have to say?
Because I think for me that what we are seeing in Nigeria is that we are not responding to situations by what the data is telling us. So you have a situation where state governors will come in and they will have flagship programs. I want to build XYZ road. We have a state that wants to build a superhighway. And then you ask yourself, is this what the data is telling you? How does that create jobs? How does that solve poverty problem? How does that reduce unemployment in your state? So one, there's not that connection. In a normal situation, an ideal situation, when you see data like this coming out from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, states should convey the Executive Council to look at this data and ask themselves tough question. What are we doing? How are we creating jobs in the society? He's talking about the housing crisis we have in Nigeria. We have a situation where houses are only available for the rich, and there are no houses for the middle class and for the poor. So if you're rich, you have houses all over town that you can cough out your money and buy. If you have somebody, middle class people, a couple working in the civil service, earning an average pay, they can send their kids to a decent school. They can't afford to buy a house. They can't get a mortgage. They have they're earning decently. And if you look at their data, it shows if you give them a loan to buy a house at a reasonable amount, they can pay back over a 10, 15-year period. But they can't get it. So how do you want them to live out of where they are? That does not exist. Then if you now go to the small and medium scale enterprises, the SMEs, which is the engine room, not only in America, even in Nigeria. Many SMEs will tell you in states across Nigeria, in Lagos, in Rivers, they set up shop, they don't want to put a signpost outside. Because the moment they put a signpost outside, the only thing government is interested in is revenue, is tax. You pay for that signpost you put outside, you pay for this, they slam you all kinds of tax, they come and do demolition exercises. Government is not asking itself this question. For us to get revenue from these SMEs, how do we ensure they survive and thrive? Because if they survive and thrive, we can get even much more tax from them. So the conversation is to have is, how do we bring these SMEs together? What are their major problems? What are their teething problems? And how can we solve some of these problems?
But such fora, not even just one forum, such fora have been put together.
It is an implementation.
The vice president has done, they have the one-stop shop stuff, where you see all the agencies together, all the MSMEs come together to, register their business, get TIN numbers, all of that on one center. He did that, I think, throughout last year and all of that. The MSMEs fund sitting at the CBN, 220 billion naira is still there. Bankers Committee will come up with, I think, 26 billion naira or so. NISO, NIPOST want to set up a NISO microfinance bank right now to unlock credit to MSMEs. A whole lot is going on. Yet the unemployment figures is startling. When I saw it, I'm disturbed, really. I'm really disturbed because what really disturbs me is that we see these things every day. You said earlier that we are seeing different dimensions right now of insecurity. It's coming out in different dimensions. Not only the insurgency in the northeast, now we are seeing insecurity in the northwest. It has even dovetailed everywhere. I was speaking with, my sister was telling me when she went back to school some time ago that a lecturer in one of the faculties in her university got killed. When he went to his farm in Enugu, he got killed by herdsmen. That is a lecturer that has a farm. Just how can you explain that? And nothing is being done. And we have leaders that see these things and we are, I don't know, I really don't, I don't even just know what to say anymore.
Well, it's pretty sad because the insecurity is also adding to poverty, because if you look at Plateau State, for example, I had an interview with Al Jazeera some time ago, and Plateau State is a hub of insecurity, especially within that axis, Plateau State, Kaduna, North Central axis. The activities of headsmen, Fulanis, getting unchecked is also adding to this situation, to this crisis, because if, people are going around killing people, then the ordinary farmer wouldn't want to come out and farm. And as such, that is adding to poverty. That is also going to add to inflation and increase the price of food because nobody wants to farm. So these topics are interrelated. The government, while we don't expect the government to do everything, but we believe in Nigeria right now, the government security is the principal responsibility of the government. So we expect that level of insecurity to be tamed to the barest minimum.
Okay, let me bring in Rotimi here. Let's talk about solutions. Are there solutions out of this, or we've run out of ideas?
I think there are no easy solutions, but there are solutions. And for me, to build any bedrock on solving poverty and unemployment in Nigeria is education. Education, and we've seen it especially in Western Nigeria, when during the Olawole legacy years provided basic free education, quality education for all citizens, irrespective of class. We need to bring that back. By lip service, several governors in Nigeria are claiming to be running free education programs, but they are not free. Schools. They are hidden charges that people pay. You have to buy uniforms, pay for school fees, pay PTA, pay this. Before you rack up all of this together, it's not affordable, they can't do it. When they now get into public schools, the quality of education they receive is very low. So first for me is we have to revive our educational sector. Provision of quality education for the poorest of the poor, and to ensure that everybody have a basic level of education. We need to do that. Number two, we need to focus on our SMEs. We need to ask ourselves, how do we solve the SME problem? And we must say there's a few initiatives of government that has been noteworthy. One of it is the Powering Markets initiative, I think run by the federal government, where a couple of markets, big markets across the country, I think in Lagos, Kano, and all over the country, are being put on an IPP arrangement to ensure that they have steady supply, power supply, all through the year. That's such a good initiative, and we need to see replicas of such initiatives happening all over the country. And government needs to do more. Credit is not reaching SMEs, and government needs to continue to ask itself a question. Because if you ask SMEs to provide all of these collaterals, how do we use artificial intelligence and data to solve the problem of providing small-scale minimum loans to SMEs in order to ensure that they thrive? At the level of what the federal government is doing with the loans given to marketers at 10,000, that's sufficient at that level, but we need to see it at a bigger scale so that people can be able to scale up, employ people, and reduce poverty in our country.
You're talking of the markets money, isn't it? Market money.
Trader money.
Trader money, yes. There's market money and trader money, I think. 10,000 naira that was disbursed just prior to the elections, I think. Though it's been a policy that has been on.
I mean, the vice president, I give him recommendation because he's doing quite a lot. You can say that he's quite determined to help Nigerians, but a drop of water does not make an ocean. We need to see replicas of the vice president in the state governors. If we see such commitment, I think Nigeria will be a better place.
You know, okay, let's take comments coming through right now on Twitter. Unicadi7375 says, Nancy, governors think better than you do. Nancy, our nation is living a lie. Example, President Buhari was in Lagos last week to commission rail system. Ask yourself today, is the train working? How can that nation not suffer unemployment? President Trump watches news, CNN, MSNBC. Does President Buhari watch AIT and channels? I don't know. Anyway, that's his tweet. Let's quickly move ahead to others. Hillary says these might be adduced, I guess he's talking about unemployment, this might be adduced to the perennial Dutch disease. You know what the Dutch disease is? Suffered by most countries that have oil. This might be adduced to the perennial Dutch disease phenomenon that ultimately makes such states worse off, even in the face of massive inflow of funds, since the absorptive capacities are missed. Heightened unemployment is just a natural consequence. Can we take one more before? Okay, Oluwachi, this says there is not a better time to sound harsh tone to our leaders than this time. they really should be ashamed of themselves. Rotimi, what do you have to say? We've talked about solutions, isn't it? You mentioned earlier that there are no easy solutions, but there could be quick wins, isn't it? For states like Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Rivers, Borno State, like I said, is understandable, the terrorism going on there. But there could also be a way out of it, you know. Lagos State, we also have to say, have the lowest unemployment rate, I think 14.6% and all of that. We just have 5 minutes to the end of the show. What else do you want to sound out there?
Well, I think that the new dispensation coming in May provides an opportunity for governors who are coming back to rejig their team and to look at how they can connect what the data is saying to what the initiatives they want to roll out, and listening to citizens and ensuring that they provide solutions to citizens would be key in this. Let me speak to the issue of commissioning of projects. We have cases where many governors want to do mega projects so that they can say within the administration we built XYZ. I remember when the bus park was commissioned in Lagos, very close to the Ikeja airport.
Yes.
I passed it for the past 3-4 months.
Yes.
It's
Nothing
not
is happening
working.
there.
I passed it on Saturday. It's not working. So we should stop this. Citizens are seeing this. So you come, you do large ceremonies and commission this. We need to ensure that government gets out of creating jobs, ensure that they provide the opportunity to create jobs to the private sector. That's where majority jobs can be created in Nigeria.
Dr. Audu, your closing remark.
Okay, I believe also we should intensify the welfare, our welfare programs, because those that are unemployed, if you are unemployed and you don't have access to money, then you are going to go into crime. So we heard that the government was reaching out to unemployed people and giving them loan and giving them money, 5,000 and all that. I think that should be the increased.
That's a conditional cash transfer.
Conditional cash transfer. That money should be increased to reach more people so that even if you're unemployed.
Should the money be increased from 5,000? I don't understand.
Yes, it should be increased
from 5,000, or it should get to more people.
It should be increased from 5,000.
Where would the money come from?
Oh yeah.
Where would the money come from?
I think the state actually needs to do that, not the federal government.
If you look at South Africa, South Africa has a budget of $120 billion. Nigeria,
yes, our own is less than $25 billion.
Yes, we have. Look at Zamfara now. Why is there illegal mining in Zamfara? When these are leakages, these are where government should be earning revenue. Now we have we have the lowest tax in the world at 6%. Other countries have 25%. So we have a lot of leakages in the economy. Do you understand? And there are ways we can generate revenue. We have to block those leakages. The government is not doing that. Once we block those leakages, Nigeria, we should be talking of a budget more than South Africa, because we have a larger economy than South Africa. At $450 billion, we have the largest economy in Africa, but we have one of the lowest budgets.
But South Africa's economy is more advanced than ours.
That's where there's inefficiency, and we have to tap into that inefficiency to become and make it efficient for us to generate revenue.
You know, that would be another. Rotimi, you want to say something?
I mean, I just want to say that many times we focus only on the federal government. The state government are practically doing nothing. I mean, you see states like Zamfara, you look at even for WAEC, you see less than 100 people writing WAEC or passing WAEC in such states. It's annoying.
I think if they create a conducive environment for the private sector, we will thrive. The diasporans alone transfer about $25 billion
which is the budget size of
everywhere, which is more than Nigerian budget. I'm one of the diasporans, but nobody is reaching out to them to invest. That's why I said the state government needs to
But the question also, I think I'll do a show on this diaspora remittance one day. But the question also is that how is that diaspora remittances, how is it being channeled? Either
they're sending to their relatives.
Because there's the environment for them to invest is not being encouraged. I am part of the diaspora community. The government has invited us. They said they are floating a $300 billion diaspora fund. Where is it? It's not working.
Okay.
And if you come and you say you want a land to do housing or something like that, you go through a lot of bureaucracy and nothing comes out of it.
Okay. Let's take these comments finally on the program today. Edmond Jaka says, you can't have growth in an economy that is built on deception and self-denials. Victor said, the truth must be told. Some governors lack vision. Let's see, Lucas says, until our government at various levels come together that's federal, states, and local government address the unemployment issue, the country will continue to go backward. Right now, it's only the FG that seems to be doing something. Ismail Aibo says unemployment stems from the country's inability to evolve a productive economy. We created a citizenry with dependency orientation and sense of entitlement because of over-dependence on oil. That's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. I know it's not, it won't be enough to talk about these issues, but let's see how we can expand on it this week, hopefully, because this is one big data. And if we have a serious country, or if we are running a serious country with serious people, this should be the news this week. Yeah. And in fact, in months to come, how do we address unemployment in states? So many thanks, and I wish you you both a lovely week.
And you too. Thanks for inviting us.
All right, I've been speaking with Dr. Aliyu, Audu, Chief Executive Officer at HATFIELD Group, and Rotimi, Olawole, a policy analyst. We've been looking at unemployment data as released by the NBS concerning our states, but I promise you that's not the last of it, at least not on this program. We have to call out these governors, and I also want to say that as an indigene of different states, we should hold our governors accountable. Let's also look less to the federal or the state or to the central government or President Buhari. Let's go back to our states and ask these governors what they're doing with our money.